Awesome. And I love people that learn in public. Is an expression I've heard before. And that's a great way to share and kind of get the encouragement and motivation, because you go in public and you say you're going to build something and people want to see it, they're going to hold you accountable to it. So good job.
And then some people just don't care that they announce that they're going to do something in public and never, ever do. Some people are like that. I'm not going to point fingers or anything, but it's some people are weird like that, I guess.
All in the fullness of time, I'm sure you'll get to these things that we talked about in the past.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power Platform Boost podcast, your timely source of Power Platform news and updates with your hosts, Nick Dolman and Ulrika Ackerbeck. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Ulrika. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm hot. It's 30-something. It's been full sun all week and half the week before, so it's not normal here for it to be this hot, but I love it. I love every second, every sun ray, everything. It's just I'm baked. So if I'm not fully functioning, it's just because my mind is a bit kind of mush. But yeah.
That's okay. Everybody's enjoying the summer vibes right now, I'm sure. And for those of you who don't like the heat, just remember 6 months from now when it's minus 28 and you're freezing your butts off, just think back to these days that you're experiencing right now. So
yeah, exactly. So, but I'm happy either way. I love snow and I love the cold and I love the sun and I love the heat. It's just sometimes it does take a toll on the cognitive, my cognitive abilities. So that's kind of just a bit of a waiver. But yeah, how are you? Other than the weather?
Doing great. Basically doing a lot of working. I like to describe myself as working on my business, not in my business, the last week or two. So really focusing on rebranding work and learning new things and things like that, just because I'm kind of project work right now is kind of a little bit on hold over the summer, which is great. So it's taking that opportunity to learn new things. And of course, other stuff as well, going to the gym, training for the next big powerlifting competition and experiencing a few little aches and pains here that I'm working through with my coach. But for the rest, I can't complain. Life is good. And then going to concerts as well. There's a big music festival here in Ottawa called Blues Fest. For those of you who I know I have listeners from Ottawa, so they know all about Blues Fest. But my daughter and I saw Green Day on Friday night, and it was freaking awesome. So good. It was just such a great time. The music, just everybody singing along, and the crowd reacting. It was probably one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. So it's really, can't complain, in a good spot here.
Fantastic. I'm so envious they have kids that age so you can go to those kinds of concerts. So I can't wait for my kid to be that age. So that's going to be good.
Yeah. And my kid wants to go with me. She was excited to be with me it's always like, it was a two-way thing. So it's not like, she's kind of like, oh, Dad, you're coming. It was more like, yeah, we're going to see Green Day. And we were listening. We went on a couple road trips last week, and of course, listening to Spotify, the bands we're going to listen here and see. And yeah, it was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you that you're having such a good time and get a bit of kind of summer holiday feeling as well. That's good. Everyone needs it. And the more I talk to people outside of kind of the Nordics that don't really know what the kind of the common holiday thing is about, because we do take 4th of July off, just everyone at the same time, and how that works. It just makes me appreciate this system more than I ever have before, really. So because everyone deserves a bit of downtime and just absolutely detox from all of it every now and again. So it's so good. But we still get, exactly. But we don't stop. We just keep cooking. And we're going to give you a show today as well with the news and updates, because last week we had our release notes episode, which of course we couldn't cover that and the news and updates. And our OneNote is full of news articles from the week and the week before. So we just couldn't not do an episode now, just because there's so many things to talk about. So we will try to keep it short and just talk about the most important things that we kind of discovered the last few weeks.
So
Yep.
talk about the release plans, and I think I'm just going to segue. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit into in our Power Platform section was a website that Jukka. I'm not sure it's not Jukka's site, but he pointed out. But it's a site. It's a community site. It's actually a Power BI report, but it's called releaseplans.net. Have you ever seen this before? It's really cool.
Yeah.
Basically,
Talked about it on the podcast before, actually.
okay. Oh, yeah. I guess absolutely. You're right. And it's just, I guess, another little reminder because Yuka did do a post on very much kind of echoing what you said about there wasn't a whole lot in this particular release wave, and he did some comparisons of the number of items, and again referred again to this website that shows the dashboard. So it's a great resource for anybody following along and wants to see what their favorite feature, or if their favorite feature disappears before it gets released. It's a good way to kind of keep track of these things. So again, we'll put that link in the show notes so you guys can check that out and use that as kind of a follow along with the release plan, because as we know, these things change. And of course, if you've missed it, check out our episode from last week where we go through the release wave 2 and we hear Erika go on a teenage rant about not having enough.
Not having enough news and updates, for sure. But luckily for me, the community pulls through and give us more than enough things to talk about. So yeah. So and not all news are some news are just small little highlights that just makes my day a teeny weeny bit better. For instance, Rene Modery's post where he talks about, because he's the person behind PowerDocu. And if you don't know what PowerDoc is, it's a tool you can use to document your Power Automate flows. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. And before now I kind of use the embedded chat Copilot Studio in Power Automate to kind of document it. But what PowerDocu will give you is a visual representation of your flow. And then he thought, why can't I do that with the Copilot Studio agents and chat and bots? So that's what he's working on, and it's not finished. It's not out there yet, but he just posts that on LinkedIn, like, this is what I'm working on currently. And what you get then is you get feedback and you get encouragement and you get, remember to add this thing, and you get kind of engagement around something to see how well it resonates. And just love to see that kind of initiatives. And also, so one of the comments is like, fantastic to finally have a face to the name, to the tool that I love. So thank you for just pointing out that you were the guy behind PowerDocu. So just wanted to shout out a little bit to Rene to give him a little limelight for the amazing job that he does.
Awesome. And I love people that learn in public. It's an expression I've heard before. And that's a great way to share and kind of get the encouragement and motivation, because you go in public and you say you're going to build something and people want to see it, they're going to hold you accountable to it. So
yeah,
good job.
And then some people just don't care that they announce that they're going to do something in public and never, ever do. Some people are like that. I'm not going to point fingers or anything, but it's some people are weird like that, I guess.
All in the fullness of time, I'm sure you'll get to these things that we talked about in the past.
Yeah, but you do them. That's the most irritating and impressive thing about you. So you just follow through. You just do. Yeah, I wish I had the kind of time that you got.
Because I don't have a life. That's what it is.
Very funny. All right. Okay. So moving on to something else that I saw on, or maybe no. Okay. I'll let you pick something. So then we can just go.
Okay. So we're talking about Copilot Studio. Speaking about learning in public and sharing stuff, Matthew Devany posted an amazing video on Copilot Studio, and it's titled How I Built a Generative Orchestration Agent. And this is something I want to see more of this, because people talk a lot about agents, and you see these demos that Microsoft does, and look, you get an agent to talk to your HR system and do all this like kind of high level, theoretical stuff. Matthew wrote this agent that basically is a way that you could put in some email addresses and that will find times to hold a meeting like within your organization. And he really amazingly broke it out, how he built it, how he had the different topics going in Copilot Studio, how he did the adaptive card to collect this information. It was just put together very good. To me, it was like, Oh, okay. I wish we had more of these examples of people building useful agents, because I think this is just going to help inspire people and kick off those creative sparks. So thank you, Matthew, for that post. Again, we'll put that in the show notes so you can check that out for yourself if you've missed it. So yeah, really a great video.
Yeah, very good post. And of course, Matthew is a pro. So just watching his videos and how he kind of goes through the narrative and how he does it, for me, that's half the thing. It's like, oh, such a professional. And I just get inspired by the work that he does. So it's very good. Also, something in terms of talking about agents, I saw a good friend of mine, Michael Keimeyer. We met at EVPC this year. He's an amazing photographer. Always make sure to capture the moment. So thank you, Michael, for all the fantastic photos you take when we're out and about on these conferences. But also, he's a great techie, and he shared something that Carsten Groth shared this week from the message center emails that you get. So when you're an admin in Message Center, I think I mentioned this a couple of episodes ago as well, you get these emails as an admin with news and updates. And Carsten's had come into the habit of sharing those out on LinkedIn for all of the other people that aren't admins and doesn't get these emails and can't see what's on the Message Center.
So one of ignores these emails as they come into your inbox, like
or ignore those emails. That's right, because there are a bazillion of them. And if you're an admin of everything, like global admin, for instance, you get a lot of these. So two things you wanted to highlight: a single sign-on SSO for external data sources for agents. So agents can now connect to external data sources without repeated manual authentication, enabling smoother and more secure integrations. And that means that we can now authenticate kind of like a connector that you can set that up with your agent, and then you don't have to authenticate every time that agent wants to use that connector for the service that you want it to use. And also, you can now publish your agents to WhatsApp, which is phenomenal because we all use WhatsApp, and for events especially, right? It's a really good way of communicating. It also talks to the omni-channel type experience that you want. So that's really cool. We want these agents to show up where we are and not the other way around. So I think that's very good news.
Yep. Oh, that's amazing. I'm not sure which technology Air France uses, but what I love about flying Air France is you can actually communicate with them through WhatsApp, and you can say, I want to change this flight, or here's my code and whatever. And it, might be half an hour before they get back to you based on whether it's an agent doing this or whether it's an actual human. But it's just, to me, it's so much easier than waiting on the phone and waiting, the horrible elevator music and everything like that. So the more we can see these WhatsApp agents for just customer service scenarios, I think it's a win-win for everyone.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And soon you'll have an agent that you could just get in touch with that agent, and then off you go, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also something in terms of agent and kind of a legal perspective, there was an announcement this week that you now have a new contract processing pre-built model in Power Automate, and for that you can use with Power Apps is actually AI Builder. That this feature is kind of wrapped around, where you just give it a high resolution image of a legal document, and then it will process what comes out of it. And they also introduced a term that I haven't heard before, OCR, which is optical character recognition, which is then it reads the characters on the image, optical character recognition capabilities, and analyzing and extract key fields from the contract entities. So that is really neat.
Have you not heard that term before? Oh, okay. So that's because you're young and I'm old. That's been the term OCR has been around for like 1,000 years. I remember my first job when we were doing material safety data, building a material safety data sheet database. And I won't get too much of the technical details, but I remember talking about OCR at that time. But at that time, the technology was so bad. Like you try to scan something and it just couldn't figure it out. This is one of those things where we would spend months building the software. We actually had a team of people that were rekeying the actual faxes and whatever into a database. And that's a situation. If I look back at it now, I could build an app in an afternoon that would basically replace 5 of those people that were working full time all year round and get the same amount of work done in a day. So yeah, it just, when you said OCR, and you said it was a new term, or didn't you say it was new to you?
No.
It was like, wait a minute,
it was new to me, or I see these acronyms all the time, and I see OKR mean other things, but in this kind of context, that's what it means. And I keep reminding myself to say what things are, because these acronyms kind of, and I also kind of, I don't want to be one of those people that rant on because of acronyms, because that's, you know, how the world goes around. But also it's important to kind of to speak it out, to speak to what it is. But yeah, so you had other news on low-code and AI stuff. A few people that actually rant even to the quality that we do, or better than we do.
Yeah, and it's, again, this is kind of have it under our section of AI stuff. And of course, it changes on a week-to-week basis in so many things. This was a post called "No Code is Dead." It was on the newstack.io. It's been shared on LinkedIn by Joel Lindstrom, former MVP and well known in the community. Ryan Cunningham was one of the folks that were interviewed or quoted in this article, with a lot of different industry leaders talking about the rise of vibe coding and building applications in AI. And just the title, of course, is very clickbaity. And of course, I'm guilty, because I posted a video a couple months ago basically saying, no code is dead, log-lib vibe coding, which generated a little bit of discussion. But again, it's going through about the evolution of apps, and of course, being able to generate new applications very quickly using AI tools. About, from one aspect of, the different opinions people are talking about, oh, well, AI can never do as good of a job as a programmer, to other ones basically saying, yeah, AI is going to completely take over the whole business and everything like that. Of course, Ryan Cunningham talked about Microsoft's position of them building more agentic apps and kind of trying to push that narrative and that story through, like less apps, more agents kind of thing. And it was a really interesting read. It was a very long read, so we will put the link again in the show notes. But it's interesting if this is something you're following along and kind of wondering where your future will be. So there's a lot of good viewpoints that you can kind of make your own decision on this, or kind of take your own viewpoints. What I found interesting on this article was it was very focused on app development exclusively. They didn't really touch on a lot on how AI, in my mind, in terms of vibe coding, is also going to help with going through and optimizing for performance, locating bugs, checking for security. I think it's all of a bigger package. But at the end of the day, as I'm playing more and more with these tools, including Plan Designer and some of these other ones, I'm thinking we need to still have the human orchestrator, or the human shepherd or babysitter as it generates this code. And I think you do need to have it'd have to be necessarily an expert, but understand the logic of what AI is generating, and as we architect these solutions. So it's really, again, kind of keeping that narrative going about where we're going with applications. And we talked about this last week as well, about how we see the Power Platform going with a lot of these new tools, like the single page applications and Power Pages, the code pages, the code apps, all of this interesting stuff. So interesting article. Check it out as like all of us learning, trying to absorb where the industry is going.
Yeah, it is. It's something my mind keeps going in this loop when I read these kinds of articles. But then, because I agree, and then I think of the consequences, and like, yeah, maybe AI is going to take my job, and then I think, what is the job that AI can never do? And then it just kind of go full circle. But it's very interesting to see kind of when the industry leaders talk about where this platform is headed, and what the tools that we use every day as professionals, where it's moving, for us to be prepared for what's coming. And we talked about this before, how it's so important to kind of be in this split where we keep our current tools and knowledge up to date with the current state of the products that we are using every day, but also being able to keep up with the new developments.
Yes. And remember, folks, if you're a pro developer, don't worry. AI is not going to take your job, but Steve Mordue may take your job. Moving on, segueing into the next article. And this, kind of ties in a little bit with this. And this is something I think I talked about before. And it's something I know Steve posted something on LinkedIn about how, since he's no longer an MVP, his goal is to be able to be mentioned on our podcast. So Steve, we're mentioning your name, but
as we have so many times.
Absolutely. So, but this was a great article. Yeah. He should sponsor us. What do you think? Yeah. Steve, are you going to be a sponsor for the Boost podcast?
Buy us a beer, at least, and you'll get a rubber duck and maybe a hug next time I see you.
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
But you talked about these vibe coding experiments, and this is something that I've been talked about in this as well, is with these new tools. And like I would also throw like Plan Designer into this too, is with these tools, you can take some of these ideas that you've had floating in your head. And like what Steve is saying, that he wouldn't necessarily hire programmers to develop it, but now he has access to the tools that he can try out some of these ideas. He can build some of these proof of concepts. And that's basically the kind of throwing that out there as I think kind of a motivation for any of us, even if you're not technical, if you have an idea for an app, even if it's not necessarily going to be in production, you can start using some of these tools within the Microsoft ecosystem or even outside to begin to build these things and try them out. And I think it's going to be great for some customers because they can build these proof of concepts. And it's all about showing versus telling sometimes, right? Well, here's this app that I built using this vibe coding tool. It's not perfect. I would like it to do this, but here, hand it over to like you and I as solution architects. Here's kind of where we're going with this. So, very interesting. Again, this is a year ago, we wouldn't even be talking about this. This is how fast these things are going. So I think some of these tools is really to help move app development along very quickly and also kind of allow for things to be done a lot more efficiently, not even just on the AI tools, but just for the pure communication of designing apps and agents and all of this fun technology. We can kind of get these visualization of these proof of concepts or these MVPs built a lot quicker and a lot faster.
Isn't Steve the one that kind of always ranted about all the shitty little apps? I think it's funny that, coming from someone who's ranted about shitty little apps for like 5 years straight, now he's encouraging everyone to build a freaking app. Steve, get your shit together, okay? It's not going to be an agent here and 1,000 shitty agents. I've seen that. Isn't that the article we mentioned last time?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Right. So over to more solid stuff. The Power Platform is now shifting gears completely. And this is something that all developers should know. And keep in mind, I'm going to use words I don't know what mean. Okay. So the title is Power Platform API and SDKs from UX first to API first. And this is a shift from the whole platform.
Yes.
So, So the article, kind of what it starts off saying is that Power Platform has kind of been administered and set up and configured through Power Platform Admin Center. Having that UX first experience has been the entry point. That's how we have admin and discovered and worked with Power Platform traditionally. What they're actually doing today, we're taking a bold step forward. We're transforming Power Platform into an API first ecosystem where every feature in PPAC is backed by a well-documented public accessible API. Which means that you can now it sounds to me like infrastructure as code in a way, where everything that you could do through PPAC is now going to be accessible through an API, and it's actually going to be API first. So, which means that they're going to kind of make sure that you can cover everything through the API and SDK, the software developer toolkit. They're going to be developer toolkits for all languages and across all the products. So they've now officially launched at Build the C# SDK, and they're now going to just build more of these for TypeScript and Python and Platform Admin through Logic Apps and Power Automate. There's going to be developer kits kind of for covering all angles. And then, of course, you have CLI and PowerShell support, and you have the MCP server support for Power Platform. So, and this is kind of huge, I think, to announce a shift this big. And also it kind of shows you, for me at least, and this is just my opinion, keep in mind, this shows me where we're going. So that the UI bit is going away. And we had this conversation not so long ago. We talk about, coding apps and all these apps, and like, okay, so, all of that, and now it's going to replace this here. You're always going to need a CRM system. It's like, no, you're not, because who's going to use it? There's not going to be anyone who has the job of collecting and enriching that data. It's going to be agents having access to public APIs or subscriptions to that kind of information, storing the metadata of who of these in this public repertoire is your customers, for instance, keeping that information up to date on its own. It's going to be agent to agent communication and data flow. So the UI of everything, who's going to need a website when all information you want to produce as a company is accessible through agents and AIs? You just need a way of providing that information, which is an MCP server, an 8A protocol. That's what's going to be the UI. There's not going to be a UI going forward. It's a bold statement, but I think this is not just the only sign that we're seeing of this, but I think it's a significant kind of signpost of where we're actually going.
Yeah,
my opinion statement. You might disagree, and I hope you do. So you can have a conversation about it.
No, not completely. I still think, like, in terms of the user interface from PPAC, I don't see that going away anytime soon. But what it does mean is for let's take the first ring of this. By having the AI and the SDKs for that, if you're creating things like you want to set up a new developer, you have a new developer onboarding. We've been in projects where we have a new developer onboarded. Of course, if we're working on shared environments, it's one thing, but sometimes we want to get to a point where the developer can have their own isolated environment and the ALM and things like that. Well, that involves going through, creating a Dataverse developer instance, assigning them permissions, making sure that's set up in the ALM pipelines, all of this stuff. Now, if you've established your own internal corporate policy of those 10 steps that you need to do, now you can write a script to do that. Here's the script, new developer script, boom, does all those things, sends out the emails, assigns the security, does all that stuff because it's all API first. That's sort of the first level of this. And then I think you're right in terms of now this is also, instead, we're going to get an agent to do this. So it's like, oh, we're onboarding Bob as, a new person at our company. The agent will go out and begin, because it has this API access, to be able to go and do all of this stuff. Now, there might be still some approvals as part of that process and that kind of thing. But I think you're right. The whole idea of building a UI interface provided by Microsoft for this, I think there will be one for a while, but eventually we won't need it because we have those APIs. So whether we build our own user interface or we tie that into our agent user interface, and the agents just talk in the background and do all this stuff, it's kind of setting up the platform for that. So I don't think you're wrong, but I also think there still has to be a way for a human to interject with this. So whether it's a little chat bot, it's probably going to be more voice. I would actually say, if you want to see the future, take a look at Star Trek, where they're like, basically, computer, spin me up a new Dataverse instance. Hey,
Yep.
Yep, here you go. So
but that's the same with me and ChatGPT today. I don't write to ChatGPT. I talk to it.
Yeah, and it'll be the same thing. Like, hey, ChatGPT, I've been living in ChatGPT and Copilot like all last week as I'm kind of doing business planning and things like this. And yeah, it's a conversation. It's not me. It is me thinking about a lot of things, but it's conversations and it's asking me questions and what about this and articulating all of this stuff. And yeah, it's a conversation. But yeah, in the practical day to day, it's like, I want to be able to say, oh, I just bought this thing off Amazon. Here's the receipt. And the agent says, okay, and just runs with it, kind of thing. Right. So yeah.
Yeah, and you imagine, just going back to the topic of kind of having that infrastructure as code approach to Power Platform admin and PPAC. How about going in and saying, like you said, I'm going to onboard PED or whatever it is, or why don't this new person have access to this, or I need a new developer environment here, or you want to just prompt an agent for that and not going through and do it, and error handling, troubleshooting, all those things. If that agent actually works, then that's what we're used to. And it's going to be the same thing as, back in the day when we went from paper, and you think I'm not old, when we went from paper to digital to the computer, people are like, well, I worked with some tourist associations, right? And you can imagine the small little huts up in the Norwegian mountains. They still have paper, in this kind of folder thing, right? And then the youth come in through the summer and they want to have a summer job, and they go, what is this paper thing in the pen? Because they expect it to be an app or to be something to do on the computer, right? So it's always been the case of what you have at home is more modern than what you have at work, and the youth coming in will expect digital tools to be able to work from everywhere. So if you don't have SharePoint in the cloud and you don't allow for young people to work from wherever they want, as a company, you're kind of stuck in the old ways, and you kind of need to keep up. And I think that's going to be one of those same things that actually we expect to be able to talk to an agent soon on all levels. So if you try to access something and it's not accessible through an agent experience or chat experience, then you're just going to go, well, too bad for you, because I'm not going to use your services because it's not accessible to me, because we're not going to have that same way of working with things that we used to. Just a kind of a futuristic idea. I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
Right. You had a few other posts here that I haven't really looked into.
Yeah, I'll just touch on them briefly because it does tie into everything we're talking about. So there's an article from Julie Koesmarno, she's on the Microsoft team, about the Dataverse MCP server. So we've already talked a little bit about this, and it ties into agents and accessing. So this is, if you're not sure what the Dataverse MCP server is, this is an excellent article that walks you through what it is, what it can do, talks about a few experiments. I did bring up a few weeks ago that Daniel Lakowicz has done some labs on MCP, the Dataverse MCP server. I would recommend everybody just run through those quickly. It shouldn't even take you that long, and that gives you a good understanding of what this can do. So that's something to check out, or what Dataverse MCP server really means. Also, there's another article, a quick shout out to Sean Astrakhan, who does the Solution Architect Accelerator course, which I went through with Sean a couple months ago. It was amazing. A lot of great content. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, but of course you always learn new things and new perspectives. But he released a video on YouTube about Dataverse, the ultimate data models guide, talking about ERD diagrams and things like that, and building, Dataverse or data infrastructures. Despite the fact we have all these tools, and he talks about them built within the Power Platform, like your Plan Designer or whatever, and it will create an ERD for you. It doesn't always do the best job, and it is something that you really need to think through. So he gives an excellent overview of how all this works. I think Hudang and a few others have posted things on Dataverse and different relationships and stuff. So if you're getting new into Dataverse, there's been a lot of content lately. I think regardless of agents and AI and Copilots and Power Pages, if you solidify your Dataverse knowledge, especially now more than ever, it's just going to benefit you hugely in your career in the Power Platform and beyond, because I see Dataverse becoming a data source for a lot of applications. And with something with the Dataverse MCP server, this opens the door for you to build applications in your own favorite tools and platforms, yet still talk to Dataverse. So
yeah, it's turning out to be the center of everything, of our universe, so to speak. And I absolutely 100% agree. I listened to a podcast today where they talked about research being done with people. They had a study with 54 people where they had, some of them could not use any tools. Some of them could use Google, but had to write themselves, and some had access to ChatGPT. And then they asked them to write a short story, and then they tested them afterwards. And the people that used ChatGPT couldn't really actually tell the people studying them kind of any exact sentences or what that story was about. People using Google and wrote it themselves could easily tell back what the story was about without the tools accessible to them. And then they tested them over the course of 4 months. And what turned out was that the people that had access to AI tools and used that extensively, they lost the ability to create those stories to the quality that they had in the past. So they would kind of rate the stories, and they deteriorated so quickly. And also to the point where when humans read through the stories they created, they said that they felt cold and distant and non-human, which then was actually rated by human at the end. And also that, and then they analyzed the stories, and they actually adopted an AI LLM way of writing, which tells you something about the deterioration of the human mind, because the human mind and the human body is designed to be efficient. If you're not using something, like, with muscle weight training is very much a fresh commodity. If you don't do it, it disappears. If the body thinks it doesn't need it, it removes it over time. If you don't train that muscle, then it will disappear. This goes for ERD diagram science as well. If you stop designing your data models today, it's not going to be long until you can't really do it right. And you're going to forget about all the small details that you now today know how to do. And then the guy on the podcast said, so what do we do to prevent this from happening? And I said, it's a simple answer. You can take the elevator every single day, or you can take the stairs. It's your choice. I choose to take the elevator sometimes when I'm tired, when I'm stressed, when I'm carrying a lot of weight, or when I'm short on time. I take the elevator, but usually I take the stairs. And so, meaning to say, do the work every day and keep your mind at the level, the quality that it is today. When you need to, when it's beneficial for you to be more, when you absolutely need to use AI to shortcut, to make things faster. But if you are starting to use it because you need better quality of work, then you're cheating your own mind. You're not cheating us, but you're cheating your own mind. So I just wanted to share that to kind of give a bit of context into what this is supposed to be. It is not supposed to replace us. It's supposed to make us more efficient. And if you let it replace you, then you're replacing yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's very powerful. It kind of triggered something about my daughter actually had a saying when we were going to like I mentioned earlier, going to these concerts, we took the train because it's just so much easier. And going up a set of stairs, of course, a lot of people were taking the escalator, and it was just faster to take the stairs. And my daughter said something that really stuck with me. She said, 10% of people will not take the stairs. Let's be the 10%. I'm like, okay, love it.
Yes.
Be the 10%.
Be the 10%. So right. All right. Let's go quickly through the rest of the news because we just dive into these things, don't we? I wanted to shout out to a Norwegian friend of mine in the Norwegian community, David Øvrelid. He is now created a tool called the PCF CLI proxy tool. And this is how it works. It is a proxy that intercepts the requests to the bundle.js, and then the request is rerouted to your local dev server. It opens up in Chrome with your CRM, and your latest code will runs in CRM. So it's a way to trick while you are working on developing your PCF component. It will trick the system to think that you're connected to data as a proxy in between while you're working. That's how I read it. And if it's completely wrong, then David, please tell me off. But I think that's what it is. But then I had, I came across something called Tell PCF Stories by Betim Beja, which is a storybook. Is a front-end workshop for building AI components and pages in isolation. Helps you develop hard to reach statuses and edge cases without needing to run the whole app. You can read more about Storybook in the official website. So we'll put links to that in the show notes if that is something that you need to dive more into. Do you have any other small little nuggets to share?
No. I mean, that's a very common. It's a common pattern when creating JavaScript and model-driven apps. There was a way to used to use Fiddler to redirect, so you don't have to keep uploading and going through that whole process. So this is great. PCF controls are one of those things that keep meaning to get more learning about. But looks
now
like
that
these
you're
tools
diving
help.
into React, it's going to be a piece of cake.
Yes, absolutely. Let's hope so. Cool. All right, moving along.
Right. Okay. Just saw something last week. Do you remember when Christine Kolonowski had I think one of her first Power Apps was how to calculate how much time a Power Automate saves you? Or how much money it saves you? No, she had it. It was vaguely. Meetings. No. It was something in a meeting invite, which calculated how much money that meeting cost.
Yes.
Right. That's probably 2 years ago. Now in Power Automate, one of these days this week, something new popped up. It was savings, it's called. It was in preview. I was like, would you like to enable savings? I'm like, what is this? It's a way for you to, if you turn on savings for all your Power Automate flows, then you give it some parameters in terms of how much manual time would this take you? And then, every time it runs, and then how many what? And then it will calculate how much money you've saved or how much time you've saved across all of your Power Automate flows. I love it. It's so much fun. It's one of the things I just want to enable it immediately at our customers. We have to talk about it when we get back after summer. It's like onboarding flow. How much time does it take usually to onboard something? It's like, and then, every time that runs.
That's awesome. That'd be so good, especially like people like, oh wow, the licensing is so like, look how much money you've saved. Like, check this out, you know?
Easy. Yep. I think maybe that's where it's coming from.
All right. Now you pointed out here the building modern single page applications and Power Pages preview. We have talked about this before. I started to play a little bit with it. I actually installed the sample code and played with that a bit this week, and I think this is, again, more to report on this, but this is going to be a bit of a game changer in terms of how an option to build Power Pages, like with React sites and things like that. So I tried the credit card app. You can get it on GitHub. But yeah, Neeraj posted a blog post kind of explaining all of this stuff too, sort of what that all means. So yeah, this was actually your article. Do you have your thoughts on this?
No, I think actually it's one of those things that just has floated in from one of our old notes kind of things. But it's to yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Just keep in mind that those those templates, they aren't really connected to data. So the data you're playing around with, you think it's real, it's actually hard coded into the app. So in those terms, it's not really best practice, but it's done to kind of to help you see how it can work. Just kind of as a bit of a heads up for people, because it looks amazing for them to actually hard code it.
Yeah, well, the sample I've used did talk to Dataverse tables. You actually you load a solution, and the solution has the tables there, so they're the credit card applications and stuff. And then I was able to go back and yeah, it's hard coded in the code in the sense of the table names and everything. But I was able to go into the Dataverse and see the data it created from my sample site. So maybe I think these things, like you look at the log, these things are constantly being updated. So maybe a previous example was just still static data. I don't know, but yeah, it's coming along.
It's one of those things that in terms of when you're developing, it's kind of hard because you're not connected to real data, which ties into the things that we just talked about. So there are ways to go around it. Let's just move quickly on to, I saw something we talked about during the Release Wave episode. How can you contribute? How can you help kind of give back? And then suddenly I saw a link. It was called Contribute to Power Platform and Copilot Studio Architecture Center. Which is a way to actually give feedback and to help move these things along, to contribute to a new article on the Power Platform and Copilot Studio Architectural Guide. You can register on your work and submit new GitHub issue and contribute to a pattern to the Architecture Center. So they have some word templates, and they really want to kind of get feedback and for us to reach out and contribute. So we're going to put the link in the show notes for that.
Excellent. If you want to have your name listed as a contributor in like Microsoft Learn, which my name's still spattered because I was an employee there, but that's one way. And speaking, that could also be if you're an aspiring or current Microsoft Most Valuable Professional, which we both are still. We both got renewed.
Yes.
This is another way to contribute. So, but if you have even if you just have random idea, or not ideas, but things to contribute, this is a way to give the feedback to Microsoft. They are listening. There's different channels to make that happen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, let's just wrap it up with a little bit of a shout out that I really loved. Unless you have something else you want to mention before we close.
Go for it.
I saw Johannes Enström, which is a Swede, I guess. He listed a few of podcasts that keeps him inspired in the low code space. And then he listed our podcast at the top, which I really appreciated. So I want to say thank you for that. And then he also listed a few others that I wanted to mention. Go down on low code with Rob Koplowitz and Ryan Dugnan. I should have practiced those names. A low code approach, which we have talked about before. Yes. And then, of course, CRM Rocks with Marcus Erlandsson, which have both been guests on. And he's been going this has been his since 2013. So, I mean, it's just a staple podcast in our community. And he still keep going. It's amazing. So a bit of shout out to both Johannes and all the other podcasts out there that keep everyone up to date on the latest news for Power Platforms. And that's very good. And low code.
Yes. Cool. All right. So basically, I think we're not gonna. I think in terms of the events, yes, we're going to be participating in all those, and that's where you get your rubber duck. The only one I want to shout out is if you're going to register for the Power Platform Community Conference in Las Vegas, use Boost 100 to get a $100 discount to that off your ticket. But love to see you there, and get your rubber duck from us. Still have a big box full that I'll be dragging with me. And and then our next episode, we're still trying to adjust for our summer schedule and things like that. So we'll still be, I think you just watch the socials. We'll let you know. But it will be on a Wednesday, either the 6th of August or the following week. At this point, we haven't quite solidified that, just because vacations and summer, and you guys got a bonus episode from us last week, so I don't want to hear any complaints.
I think it's all good. Have a fantastic rest of your summer, guys, and we'll catch you when we catch you. Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please make sure you share it with your friends and colleagues in the community. And be sure to leave a rating or a review on your favorite streaming service. That makes it easier for others to find us. Follow us on social platforms and make sure you don't miss a single episode. Thank you for listening to the Power Platform Boost podcast with your host, Ulrika Ackerbeck and Nick Dolman. See you next time for your timely boost of Power Platform news and updates.